So I've gone and done it. I've canceled my Apple Music subscription. But of course, you're probably asking why. Apple Music costs $11 a month, and ultimately, the amount of songs that I add on Apple Music isn't worth that $11 a month. I can just find that stuff and buy them. Sure, Apple Music has a better discovery system, but I ultimately can just discover music on my own and find that through Bandcamp or some other service. I didn't need Apple Music to begin with. I only had it back in college 2 years ago because I couldn't afford just all of my music outright. I had used SoundCloud and then the free version of Spotify, and then ultimately I went with Apple Music. It was a cheap option. It was $10 a month at that point, and with a student discount, it was brought down to $6. With that, it gave me access to all of the music that's on the iTunes store and more straight on my iPhone through the built-in music app, which for me was handy, and I liked the experience a lot better than the Spotify app, which was trash compared to the Apple Music app, in my opinion anyways. I don't think Spotify is trash, by the way. I think that there are pros and cons to both services, but ultimately Apple Music is what worked for me better, as it understood my car better, so that was nice when it came to listening to music. But also the app was just clean. It was first party, and that makes sense. It matched the look and feel of iOS, and it had smoother animations with stuff. It had better features like Apple Music Sing, for instance, which was added in iOS 16. That stuff was just there, and Spotify just didn't have any of that. Apple Music also had lossless audio, which I never used because I was on cellular, so it never used it automatically for me. And if I did use it, I never noticed it because I didn't own any good headphones at the time to be able to notice that kind of stuff. I had AirPod Pros, but you couldn't use Apple lossless with those, and now those AirPod Pros died. Cool, thanks Apple. Ultimately, now that I have a job, I've realized just how nice it is to own your music. You can use whatever music client you want. You can use whatever devices you want. You can use literally anything you want because you are in control. You can choose what devices, you can choose on what platforms. Like there's no Apple Music client on Linux, and we'll get to that in a moment. It's mine, I own it. And that feels great, and nobody can take it away from me. With that being said, let's just go right into the first reason why I switched away from Apple Music. Your entire library, theoretically, could be taken away from you at any point in time, whether the artist just doesn't license their stuff, or renew their license, I guess is a better way of putting it. They can just disallow you from listening to their stuff. And I looked at my library when I was ready to cancel. I'm like, holy crap, there's a lot of songs in here that just vanished from my library I never noticed, and I never could listen to them again. Thankfully, now I've purchased those ones, so now I can listen to all that stuff, and it's kind of nice to go back and just hear everything that I had lost. But ultimately, that's one of the big reasons, is that there's no music consistency. You can add a song one day and then it can be gone the next. I had on Spotify as well, both Apple Music and Spotify did this. An entire game soundtrack just vanished. That's a great feeling. So the second reason why I canceled Apple Music was rising prices. Ultimately, for me, I got a student discount when I started using Apple Music, so I was paying a discounted price at $6 a month, and when they did their price hike, that didn't change for me, even though it was $11 a month. For non-students, students still were paying $6. They didn't actually change anything there. However, I was soon gonna start paying that $11 a month later this year because it only lets you do it for 1 year. Now that I've graduated college, my school account is gone. It's been deleted, and you need that account to re-verify your Apple Music subscription. If you don't have that, then they'll say, oh, it's fine. Just pay $5 extra a month and we'll take care of it for you. I don't want to pay $11 a month for my music streaming service, Apple. Ultimately, the third and final reason why I switched away from Apple Music was I can choose what devices I put my music on. Once I switched away from Apple Music and got all of my songs purchased on my iMac here, automatically, my entire library just showed up on my second-gen Apple TV. Now, for those not aware, the second-gen Apple TV is from like 2010. It runs tvOS 6, it looks very ancient, and I got it for $5. I'll make a video on that at some point. But that device doesn't support Apple Music, and it makes sense that it doesn't because Apple Music never existed on that platform. It was literally just anything that could run iOS 8.4 or later, and this TV runs tvOS 6. So it's not gonna have support for that. So the only way I could get Apple Music stuff to work on this Apple TV was with AirPlay. However, that never worked properly for me on multiple occasions. Biggest reason is because the AirPlay on the second gen Apple TV isn't the best at pulling audio from modern devices. It does work, and I'm actually surprised that my iPhone knows that it's like an Apple TV and it's all that stuff. But yeah, no, AirPlay works perfectly fine on this thing, except for the fact that the Wi-Fi in the thing sucks, so sometimes audio stutters. It's not great. So yeah, ultimately, not having that was kind of annoying, but it wasn't really a big thing. But now that I have all my music on my iMac, it just works. I have home sharing turned on my iMac. I plan to get a Mac Mini at some point to put all of my music on and use that as like a music streaming server, just so I can offload the massive amount of music that's on this thing, because there's just tons and tons of stuff on here, and I need to get that cleaned off. So that was one of the biggest reasons, but the actual biggest reason was because I got one of these. This is an iPod 5th generation with the click wheel and everything. This is the big boy, the 80 gig model, considered one of the best iPods ever. And I got this from work for 50 bucks, so pretty good deal if you ask me. But I wanted to be able to disconnect from everything that forces me to be like, oh, you need to be signed in or you need to be connected to the internet to listen to your music, because this device doesn't even have Wi-Fi. This device has no internet connection capabilities of any kind. It's literally designed to play music, watch videos, play photos in like a slideshow, or just look at photos, play a few little games here and there that don't require internet. That's something we take for granted nowadays, isn't it? Everything seems to require an internet connection. That's basically all this can do. It's literally designed for one thing, and it's for entertainment, but it's not designed to fulfill any social needs or anything. It's literally an offline device. And that's just something I've always wanted. I've always wanted an iPod Classic like this, to be able to just say, no Wi-Fi, no nothing. And the iPod Touch, by the way, doesn't work for this purpose either, because the iPod Touch runs iOS. iOS is not inherently a bad thing, in my opinion. iOS, as DankPods put it, is probably one of the best of operating systems to put on an iPod Touch. And I actually agree. But the issue is that the iPod Touch has Wi-Fi, and it has Bluetooth. Now, Bluetooth isn't that big of a deal, but Wi-Fi allows you to connect to the internet, download apps, do all this sort of stuff that, like, you could do on a phone. So it's like, why not just do it on a phone? You can put an iPhone in airplane mode if you want a distraction-free environment. Although with an iPod Touch, if you put it in airplane mode, it's literally just a less powerful iPhone that's in airplane mode. They have the exact same capabilities at that point. At this point, I was just like, I want one of these, and these are not compatible with Apple Music. I have tried. It just, when you try to sync a downloaded song from Apple Music to one of these, it'll immediately just throw an error saying, Apple Music song cannot be synced to an iPod, and that you have to use local files. So now I have control of basically everything. Now that I have the files locally, I can put them on my home server and stream them from any device that I want to. I can stream them from my iPad using home sharing, same with my iPod Touches if I want to, my iPhone here, or in the case of these offline devices, I can just put music straight on them and have an offline backup copy of my entire collection. That's pretty cool. And in terms of my PC, where I had to use a Linux Apple Music client, which I will be uninstalling later, you had to go about doing stuff like that. It's like, now I can just put the files on this computer and use a third-party music player and just play everything to my heart's content without needing to worry about stupid DRM and crap that nobody likes. I get why it exists, but it is the worst thing ever. Stop it. So enough of me just blabbing on about how Apple Music is just not needed in my life anymore. I might as well just show you how I have my library organized without Apple Music. Here I am at my Mac desktop, and sorry for the bad audio quality, or bad-ish, I guess. I do not have a dedicated microphone just yet, but I plan to get one. But right now, that hasn't happened yet, so yeah, just you gotta deal with this for now. But here's how I have my entire library set up. You can see I've got some playlists over here that I need to sort through that I just haven't. Yeah, so you can see we've got a massive amount of songs here. Tons of different songs from different soundtracks, and yada yada, it doesn't matter. But ultimately, this stuff now is mine, and I can do whatever the heck I want with it. I now have my own playlists controls, I have ratings and such, which technically with Apple Music, you kind of have that too, but if you try to use the legacy features with Apple Music, it gets kind of disjointed. It's weird. I don't understand how it works, but it is what it is. But yeah, being able to have more granular control over the music that I listen to is nice, especially because now I have these song ratings that I can use that work with older devices, because I'm able to control, okay, how am I feeling? Do I want to listen to songs that I deem are 3 stars, 4 stars, 5 stars, or whatever? I guess it's just my crazy way of organizing everything that I have. But you can see I have all of that here, and then I have a playlist where I put absolute favorites, which technically that's what the favorite songs playlist is for, but this one sucks because you can't customize it or do anything with it. So and plus the favorites feature, it breaks all the time. Every time I sync my classic iPod, it deletes literally all of my favorites for some reason whenever I sync this thing. So there's no point of doing that. I literally just have a special playlist to do that because this one freaking sucks. Apple, if there's nothing in here, you should remove the playlist from the sidebar. So yeah, all of this music totaled over $700. It was exactly $726.81. Yikes, that was expensive. So now I guess if you're curious, how long would it take me to make the money back that I spent? Now, ultimately, I have a calculator pulled up here with the exact total of how much everything was. Now, if we pull up a calendar here, it's $11 a month for Apple Music. However, I would have been paying the student price until September. So let's just pretend to add to this value here. So then we can just do an even $11 a month. So we have this month, we have January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, and September. Those are the only months I'd be able to pay $6 a month, and that is 9 months. So if we just add 9 times 5 to this number, which is 45, that will give us the offset if we were able to do $11 a month. So yes, this math might be a little confusing, but this is how we do it. So then if we divide this by 1099, this will give us how many months it'll take to make back the money that I would be spending on Apple Music. So you can see that's quite a long time. That's almost 6 years. So was it really worth it? I don't know, maybe. For me, it wasn't all just about the money. Sure, I'll eventually make it back. Once I turn 26, I'll make back the money that or it'll be more like 25, but I'll make back the money that I had basically just spent on my entire collection. Now, knowing that I will have made that back is pretty cool, but ultimately, that's not the only reason why I did it. It's because the annoyances with Apple Music that I had, especially with the favorites playlist, that was implemented in iOS 17.1. Great concept. Totally broken implementation is so annoying. And the favorites playlist still exists even after I unsubscribed, so it's not just an Apple Music feature. I really wish I could turn it off. It is so annoying. Having control of my own music, like this music here, I own this. Like if I right click this, I can literally hit show in Finder. It is right here. I own these files. I can copy them. I can do whatever I want besides do anything illegal. I can do whatever I want. Like, I have control of all of this stuff. And that, to me, matters more than the money that I'd be saving if I didn't buy all this stuff. So ultimately, I plan to continue to use Bandcamp to purchase my music. And anything that's not on Bandcamp, I'll just purchase from the iTunes store. It's just one more step I'm taking to just minimize monthly expenses. But hey, now I own all my music, and I can use it on my Apple TV, and I can use it on my iPod and my PC. So ultimately, that's the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and maybe it gave you some insight onto canceling your own music subscription if you have the money to be able to. Because ultimately, there are many more perks to purchasing your music than there are to just stream it and not own it. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you all later. Bye guys.